Hello Gemini, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your recent past, your current energy, and your immediate future, answering the question, what do you need to know right now in order to move forward in alignment with your higher self? Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and to leave what does not. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. All right, Gemini, we're going to jump on in. We're going to start with looking at your recent past, current energy, and immediate future with oracle cards first, and then we'll dive deeper into the reading with tarot as we progress. But let's first start here looking at your recent past. What have you been dealing with, Gemini? Ooh. Bring love into the situation, work through your fears, and then on the bottom here, you have show the world the real you. Interesting. You've been in hiding here. In hiding from I don't know if it's certain truths or if it's certain moves that needs to be made, changes that need to be made. And I feel like it's maybe you're aware of it, maybe you're trying not to be aware of it, but I feel like there are certain things in your life that you feel like aren't working or aren't aligning. And I feel like there's been this fear of making change, which is natural and normal. You know, humans, we hate change. We prefer what is predictable. We prefer what we're used to, even if it's unfulfilling. And so I feel, and then in addition to that, sometimes we talk ourselves out of it. And we go, well, I should just be happy with this. You know, this should be enough for me. And we forget that, you know, we're allowed to want the things that we desire. We're allowed to want fulfillment. We're allowed to want love. We're allowed to want abundance. And I feel like there's something here that hasn't been aligning with you potentially for a while, but it's been difficult for you to be honest about that. And I get it, and absolutely I get it, but I also fear that I also feel that there's a lot of fear in association with making some sort of change, or even with admitting to yourself that something isn't aligning, because then it's like, well, now what do I do? All right, current energy for Gemini here. And I don't necessarily know what this is in regard to. I don't know if it's like starting something new, you know, making change and starting something, making change and moving away from something, which can also open up for new. But let's just see here. Current energy. But I just hear like been in hiding. So I don't know why specifically that wording comes through. Well, look at that. What do you need to release? So I definitely think that there's something that's holding you back. I don't know if it's a relationship, a habit, a belief system, but it definitely has been blocking your flow of abundance. Whoa, okay. A time to give rather than take. You are good enough. And then you have communication is key. And maybe that's what, you know, this energy of being in hiding is about here, where, you know, there isn't a whole lot of, you know, standing tall in your truth, speaking up about your needs, being honest about what it is that you feel and what it is that you do desire, which I think sometimes we're afraid of pushing the things in our life away if we start to get honest about what we do deserve and desire, which, you know, anything that we lose because we speak our truth or we stand tall in our truth isn't a loss, it's alignment, but that doesn't make it any easier. But I also feel like right now is a time, and this sounds a little cheesy, so I'm going to say it and I'm going to elaborate on it, but really a time to reclaim your worth, because I feel like there are certain things that aren't aligning with what it is that you truly deserve, but maybe there's this energy of waiting for things to change or waiting for it to get better or waiting for it to feel different. But what's happening is you just are keeping yourself stuck in this energy of not having what it is that you desire and deserve. So there's something that, like I said, is really blocking you here. Something that I honestly feel is like, I get this like suffocating energy where it's like it's keeping you smaller, it's keeping you stuck, or it's keeping you like from being able to really expand in a lot of ways, maybe in a career, in just your personal world. But let's see what we've got moving forward. What does Gemini need to know moving forward? A lot of times it can be a habit, right? Like a habit or an addiction or, I mean, yes, obviously a relationship or a pattern or a cycle. It can be anything. So since this is a general reading, it really comes down to, what resonates with you when you hear these messages. All right. What does Gemini need to know moving forward? A time for healing, and have faith in your dreams, which again, on the bottom, you have show the world the real you. Something that I've really learned about life is that a lot of us fall into a path that we were taught throughout our childhood or throughout our, formative years, that something was really right for us. And we choose it, and we do the things that we're taught. We check the things off of our list, and then we get there and we go, I'm not happy. This doesn't really align with, this doesn't bring me fulfillment. This doesn't align with what it is I really deserve or desire. And that's typically when people go through like this period of awakening where they start to realize, okay, this is what I've been taught. This is how I've been wired. But now, I'm going to figure out who I really am and what I really want. And I honestly feel like that's a big part of what this period is for you, Gemini, is actually figuring out what it is that you do really want out of your life or out of a certain situation that doesn't just have to do with like what you were taught you wanted or what you were told you wanted. Because so much of the time we think certain things are what we want because we don't know that other things are possible. But when we go through, awakenings or we see things from a different perspective, we start to realize anything's possible. So if I've been, forcing myself down a certain path because I think that this is all that I can do or this is all that I can have, maybe I'm blocking myself off from a world of possibilities. And with this have faith in your dreams card, I feel like it's almost like, to me, this feels like going from like this zombie energy to like a very passionate, intentional energy. And I feel like you've kind of been in this zombie mode, going through the motions, doing what needs to be done. And you're kind of getting to this place where you're like, what's the point? This isn't what I want. Where do I go? And what do I do from here? So this actually feels like a really exciting time in your life. It's probably really confusing. It's really overwhelming. There's probably a lot of, like I said, fear in alignment with this because it's scary when we start to realize that change needs to be made. But I also feel like you're opening yourself up for like a lot better than you even thought was possible for you. This is exciting. Whoever this collective is, this has been a long time coming for you too. Maybe something that like you've like tried to ignore or tried to push down or tried to push aside, and now you're just like, you can't anymore in a sense. All right, overall theme of this reading for Gemini. Growth. So maybe you've outgrown something, outgrown a path, outgrown a habit, a person, a relationship, and then you have this new moon here. This is big. This is like a life path shifts in a way, because and this kind of does feel like it has an awakening vibe to it. Like I've been asleep and I'm awake. Like that's literally what it feels like. Especially with this new moon card. This new moon, the new moon is all about new energies, new cycles, new experiences, new opportunities. It's all fresh, new beginning kind of energy. But the new moon, you know, especially in the beginning of like the moon cycle, the new moon is the darkest, right? It's like you barely see it. It's just there. So there's so much to be discovered and to be revealed in a way. And I think that right now, the biggest reason why things are really scary and overwhelming is you're like, well, this is what I thought my life was going to be, or what I thought it was going to look like, or what I thought it needed to happen. And now I have no idea. And I call that the in-between space. When you don't really align with who you've been, but you're not entirely sure who you're becoming or what it is that you want. So you're in that in-between space right now, which, again, like coming from experience of being in many in-between spaces, it's scary and it's overwhelming, but it's also so transformative and so worth it in the end, because the version of you that you become in that in-between space is the version of you that finally is, you know, aligned with what it is that you deserve and desire, and you're able to create it. And it's really beautiful and really exciting when you tap into that. All right, let's dive in more. All right, Gemini, we're looking at this past energy. Work through your fears with bring love into the situation. So I don't know if you guys can hear it, but my stomach is growling. I feel like I always push lunchtime a little too far. I always do. I'm like, I'll just do one more reading. And then my stomach just sits here and growls. So sorry about that, especially because my microphone is right there. All right, past energy for Gemini here. Wheel of Fortune in reverse. This speaks to the energy of something, something karmic. Page of Wands. Whoa. Okay, Two of Cups in reverse. Yeah, I thought that was going to be upright. I feel like I need one more. Oh, okay. I see how this ties in. Let me get one more, though. So I already started asking for it. Wow, that's a lot of cards in reverse. Okay, Six of Wands in reverse on the bottom. Five of Pentacles. I'm just going to come out and say it because I feel like I need to. You've been on some sort of a karmic path. And to be honest with you, Gemini, I feel like you've been on a path that was never really yours to begin with. It wasn't chosen by you, even though the choices were yours. It's like it wasn't chosen by you. Because with this Page of Wands, it feels like you've been living certain beliefs that you were taught from the very beginning. You know, we're born. All we know is that we exist. Everything from that point forward is up to the interpretation of our experiences. We learn who we are, what we want, you know, what we're capable of, how lovable we are, how intelligent we are. We learn all of this throughout our experiences, how we're taught, how we're loved. And a lot of times what happens is we actually inherit beliefs about ourselves that aren't entirely true. Beliefs about ourselves and our life and what's possible and what we want. And we live out this life. And I always say that there's a difference between, we all have a fate, we all have a destiny. And we're fated to a certain reality that is essentially a reflection of the beliefs that were handed to us. And we go through an awakening, hopefully if you're lucky enough in your lifetime, which when you're going through awakening, it doesn't feel like you're lucky. But if you're lucky enough, you get to go through this awakening, and then you align with your destiny. You align with your purpose. You align with your authenticity. You align with your soul instead of, you know, what you were kind of taught. And I feel like that is something that is really common for a lot of people. I know a lot of people actually tend to come to me as a spiritual coach when, you know, they're going through this period because they're like, you know, I understand now that this doesn't align with me, but I have no idea what the hell to do now moving forward. And I almost feel like you're kind of at this place where hitting dead ends or, you know, finding yourself in spaces that you don't want to be. And it's almost like there's very much this disconnect. And I see that with the Two of Cups in reverse, almost like this disconnect from you, from yourself almost, where your purpose, you know, there's no purpose, there's no why or intention. It's just kind of like, I'm doing these things because, and I don't think that you're necessary. I feel like these messages are coming off as if I'm saying like, oh, you're just so lost. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. We all walk a karmic path before we realize we're on a karmic path, before we shift gears. And I think that that's where the awakening really comes into play. Is we wouldn't have an awakening and we wouldn't grow, expand, evolve, which is what we're here to do, if we didn't, walk certain paths. So it's not that you've been doing the wrong thing, it's you've been doing the right thing for you in your life. But I feel like now it's time for a change. It's time for a shift, where you're recognizing that certain things aren't really aligning with you, aren't aligning with your happiness. And now you're being given the opportunity to figure out what that is and what that looks like. Because yeah, there's a lot of loss, there's a lot of lack. And one thing I've really learned too is that the universe doesn't allow us to settle where we're not meant to settle. So we can't, we're never going to find fulfillment in the places we're not meant to be. And it's not because you don't deserve fulfillment, it's because you don't realize how deserving of fulfillment you are, which is why we tend to settle and stay in places that don't really align with us. All right, current energy for you, Gemini. You are good enough. With what do you need to release? I don't know if it's like awakening to a deeper purpose, awakening to a calling, or just like in general, kind of going through a spiritual awakening here. I was just about to say, oh my gosh, I wish I would have said it. I was just about to say, I'm surprised we haven't seen the Hierophant, because the Hierophant is all about awakening. And look at that, the Hierophant. I always, when that happens, I always regret. I'm like, man, I should have said it out loud. Let's see. Gemini cannot be held back any longer. That's for damn sure. Okay, 8 of Pentacles, Page of Swords, and the Hierophant. It feels like you've kind of hit this I don't want to call it a breaking point necessarily. Maybe for a lot of you it is. But this point where you're kind of just like, you know what? No. This isn't working. This doesn't align with me. It's like, it's very much this energy of like, something's got to give. Something's got to change. And to be honest, that's probably why you were drawn to this reading, because you've been feeling this way potentially for a while. And I do get this energy of trying to ignore it, trying to hide from it, trying to maybe outwork it, trying to distract from it. This is where addiction starts to really come into play, where we use, substances or binge watching TV or whatever to not deal with the realities of our life. And sometimes we just can't anymore. We find ourselves in this place where we're like, you know what? I can no longer avoid the things that I, need to face. That's what this feels like. And it is a very challenging time in anybody's life, because it's where you're no longer able to push it down. You're no longer able to hide from it. You're no longer able to distract from it. It's something that is just, it's front and center, and it has to be dealt with. And it's scary, but it's also exciting. And I feel like that's what one of the biggest things of this reading is really trying, like one of the biggest things this reading is trying to present is, yes, you have, your feelings are valid. It's understandable why you feel afraid and why you feel so unsure, but you have way more to be excited about. And I see that with the Page of Swords. It's like, you have so much to be excited about. You have so much to be excited for. It is a lot of work, and I think that you're in the middle of like doing that work. A lot of people don't have the opportunity of getting to awaken to these things. And as somebody who I feel like I was able to change a lot of things about my life from a very young age. And I'm very grateful for that, because I think that I watch a lot of people around me living certain lives, being unhappy or being unfulfilled, and just doing it because they don't know any other way to exist. And I think so much of, why we're here is to recognize that things don't have to be a certain way. We are here to do more, to experience more, to love more, to feel more, to get, not to have more necessarily, but to experience more. And I think that there's so much beauty in that. So you have so much to look forward to as you move forward. But yeah, you're in the middle of an awakening right now. And this awakening, I feel like, is very soul shaking, but it's also very expansive. Like you don't realize how much of the opportunity you're now going to have to really expand your life and your experiences. So I do think it's almost as if it's like, it's your time. It's your time to, step into the light and the truth of of what's going on, and to allow yourself to face it all kind of head on. Like I said, I feel like you've tried to run from it. We all do. We run from it until we can't anymore. And a lot of times it looks like a relationship that isn't working. It looks like, a career path that you've spent years and years building, and then you find yourself feeling unfulfilled in it. A lot of times it looks a lot like a dead end. But the dead end is only opening up more doors and more possibilities for you. So I am actually getting the vibe that this reading is really exciting, but it does require you to be willing to let go of, some things that you've been holding on to, which is only going to lead you to better things. It only is going to open the door to better things. I think that, as somebody who spent a good chunk of my life, before I had the privilege of going through an awakening, I spent a good chunk of my life settling and accepting less and putting up with, horrible relationships and experiences. And I did it all because I thought I had to. And when we realize that we don't have to live a certain way, that we're not just here to survive, but we're also here to thrive, a lot changes, because no more are we just, suffering through the week or the day, just to get through. We're living our life with purpose and with intention and with excitement for where we're at in this moment. And the beauty in that level of fulfillment is something that I truly feel is beyond worth every single difficult period of an awakening. So let's see where this is all taking you. What does Gemini need to know moving forward? Whoa. The Empress, King of Wands, Six of Wands, Ace of Swords. Oh, this is a huge breakthrough. Gemini, you're about to move way differently. Way differently. That sounded weird. And I said this in the very beginning. I said, this sounds a little cheesy, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is a period of reclaiming your worth. That is exactly what this is with the Empress. And it feels like, and I will say, I think that that's a lot of what awakenings are all about, is where we stop allowing this world to determine who we are, what we're worth, what we're deserving of, what we're capable of, and we start claiming that for ourselves. We decide that we are just as lovable, worthy, and deserving as we want to be, and we start showing up in the energy of that belief. And that's a lot of what this feels like. I think that for you, Gemini, there's been this energy of, settling and surviving and doing all these things, probably because you felt you had to. And nobody's blaming you for that or saying that you've been doing anything wrong. I think that that's, again, part of the process. But this is a huge breakthrough. And this breakthrough leads to a tremendous amount of success, to be honest with you. I feel like it's success in a lot of different ways, though. It's not just like, success in a, in a career, success in a this or that. This is like life success, which to me, I think that the most successful life is the one that is deeply fulfilling, right? Where you wake up every single day excited about the life that you're living, not the life that you could be living in the future. And I think that where you're at right now is that period, like I said, that in between where you're not really sure where you're headed. And, part of that process is getting really comfortable with being uncomfortable and not having all of the answers. But you're headed toward a pretty intense breakthrough. And this breakthrough is very much, you stepping into your power and claiming your worth, and almost like the best way, like taking back your life, where it's like, no longer anybody else's to define or determine, like, Your income is yours to determine. Like, the level of love you receive is yours to determine. Like, the quality of your life is yours to determine. Like, this is huge, and this is exciting. And I think that, everybody, when we talk about what tarot isn't telling the future. It's looking at the energies that are surrounding you and what's possible for you should you, move forward in alignment with your higher self, which is why I always ask the question, what do you need to know in order to move forward in alignment with your higher self? This is really a time of getting clear on the understanding that this world does not define your worth. The relationships that you've had to this point do not define what's possible for you in love. The level of success that you've received to this point does not define what's possible for you in business or in success or in finances. You are literally a being of unlimited potential. You carry so much power in being able to create a life beyond your wildest dreams. But your ability to believe in that power, to recognize that power, and to truly, truly claim that power is the only thing standing in your way between where you're at now and where you want to be. So I feel like this is, and it's a process. It's not like it would be so easy if you just wake up one day and be like, oh yeah, and remember that you're a divine being having a human experience and that you're beyond powerful and you're a co-creator and all the beautiful things about it. But it's not that easy because you have a lifetime of limiting beliefs and, lies that have been placed on you about who you are and how lovable you are or are not. You're breaking out of all of that. That's setting yourself free. That's stepping into the realm of abundance and fulfillment and thriving instead of just sitting in an energy of surviving. It doesn't mean that your life is just perfect, right? There's challenges, there's struggles, there's things that come up. But it's a hell of a lot easier when you know your power and you know that nothing in this world defines you except for what you choose to define yourself as. You are the only person who gets to determine what's possible for you. So this is a big and exciting new beginning, and I love the energy of the King of Wands because it's also the embodiment of like confident action. Not action rooted in fear, but action rooted in faith and self-assurance. And I think that this is very life-changing energy. I don't think this reading is going to be for everyone. Whoever it's for, it's definitely meant for, though. That makes sense. And I think that if you're living it, you're going to know it. But as you get to the other side of, all of this, you're going to be, sitting here being the me of the world, telling, people who are going through it how crazy awakenings are, but how wonderful and beautiful and worth it they are in the end. Okay, we're going to hop on over to the extended. I'm going to dive deeper into this reading, ultimately answering the question, what do you need to do right now in order to move forward in alignment with your higher self? So we're looking more at the tangible advice. Any information for that extended is in the description box or caption below. Thank you so much, Gemini, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. Okay, bye.